Okay, rulers, settle down. Ruler School is brought to you by Odyssey Games, where you can go to get singles for all your Force of Will and other trading card games, as well as these amazing patrons. Special thanks to guest lecturer member Vite Ramen. Thank you for your support. Class is in session. Hey there, rulers, DMO73 here, bringing you a feature match for the week with Wanderer. We're jumping in with some of our favorite Wanderer stuff and mechanics. Paul is playing an Incarnate variant of Cthulhu Wolfgang. Wolfgang 1, the Cthulhu Wolfgang, obviously, but using old kind of Incarnate mechanics and everything else to kind of do some really fun stuff. And I am playing Witch's Brew Fox. So this is the entire kind of early engine package of Fox to get to Chimeras has been kind of replaced with some of the quick casty kind of stuff and kind of replicating stuff that we've had in recent sets to make it a little bit smoother, as well as some interesting stone-based decisions to kind of make it so we can get to Fox faster potentially, and some cool stuff in the sideboard to be able to close out games a little bit more effectively. So we're going to go ahead and jump right in, sure to be a good time. We do have to obviously watch out for the fact that Wolfgang with the Incarnate just has a lot more access to being able to go even faster than not having to play just a million shubs, but we do get to use 6 Sage of Stone for Fox to be able to judgment on one if we hit that 6 Sage of Stone. Coming down, we see a Dracula off of turn 1 from Paul. Gonna float some will and call stone. Unfortunately hitting a second 6 Sage Stone here, so not really much we can do, but we're gonna go ahead and use the floating we had before plus a void to play a Melfi. This is gonna get us to be able to play some other colors, hopefully green and black, and maybe we have the Institute in hand to be able to cycle through one of those 6 Sage Stones and hit another killing stone, but we'll see how it does. Trying to dig a little bit here, playing another Melfi off the Melfi will. Seeing if we can once again get to an Institute to be able to cycle. Ultimately though, I do not think we see anything here, so we just follow it up with a Fox Spirit, which sets us up for our Black Resonator. So if for some reason Paul doesn't happen to kill us this turn because we're tapped out against a Cthulhu deck, we have a chance to be able to reestablish. This is one of the inherent weaknesses of 6 Sage Stone, is if you have just that one J ruler, sometimes you just get punished because it doesn't recover a J ruler. Unfortunately, Paul does have the shub here, so this is where he gets a lot of value. He gets to awaken it, he gets to produce red-black, he can search for any Cthulhu, so if he doesn't have Yogg, he can grab it already. He could also grab something like Nyarlathotep to be able to rip my hand apart. You see he does have another shove, which he's going to cast off the first one. So this is pretty much all but going to guarantee lethal. So at this point in time, we can get the... he has an Adam Brawley in hand as well. We can get the Nyarlathotep. And we do have the Energize here that gives him the access to blue, so we have the way to be able to play the Yogg-Sothoth as well as everything else. So the way this works is because the Yogg-Sothoth creates kind of a cloud effect, everything that comes into play after the Yogg is still going to have that pump and the swiftness and everything else, so it gets to do a lot of really crazy stuff here. So he uses the Energize to play the Yogg-Sothoth and awaken it, because he needs the blue, and now everything's going to have that extra attack and swiftness. Gets to swing with Dracula in the air, gets to swing with each of the shubs. We block, we take pierce damage, we block, we swing, we block, we take pierce damage, and now he can sacrifice these to then play Nyarlathotep. I think he's going to actually choose to do Adam Brawley first potentially. Sacrificing the Dracula instead, because that makes a lot more sense to do Nyarlathotep to rip my hand apart here. It also is a Cthulhu, so it gets to kind of also just go in aggressively there, swing in, and then he can sacrifice these two to play an Adam Brawley and just finish the game at that point. So we scoop it up and we go into game 2. So like you saw there, a lot more ability to be able to rip your opponent's hand apart, have a little bit more utility, not necessarily have to pop off, but when you do pop off, you're a lot more protected. And you don't have to necessarily get nearly as many madness counters to be able to finish the job. Getting the Energize here for Fox is really nice, because this means that we are certainly more set up to be able to keep ourselves defended, especially if we have to judgment early with those 6 Sage Stones. Calling that first stone, we hit a Autorock Memoria. He's going to go ahead and cast the Transformed. I'm going to go ahead and discard the number 13 and lose 4 life. We do hit a Killing Stone off the top, so this means next turn we're probably going to go ahead and Judgment and put in a lot of work. Down comes a Dracula on our end, also a wonderful card now for Fox, because every time we sacrifice it for a Chimera, it just gets to keep coming back. We are then going to respond to the Azathoth here with a Lorite to be able to stop it, but he is going to go ahead and sacrifice those 2 Resonators to grab a Nyarlathotep. So we're in a pretty good spot here, though, because now we're at Chimera level, because we have a red, black, and a green and a Killing Stone. So even though we lost a card there, we lost that Melfi, we still get to go ahead and swing in for 4 with Dracula. Float some will here, and then use Fox effect. So Killing Stone, when it goes to grave, I gain 100 life and he loses 100 life, so 35, 37. And I get to go get a Chimera, which gets us Griffin from the sideboard, who then gets us 2 stones. We hit double 6 Sage Stone, which feels pretty not great, because we do need that Killing Stone access, but we're going to go ahead and use the floating black to do Assault from the Demonic World to kill the Nyarlathotep, and then also be able to follow it up by bringing Dracula back at the end of the turn. Like I said, Dracula being a wonderful recurring sacrifice target that also just becomes a bigger and bigger threat as the game goes on for Fox. So we're at a weird spot of not having Killing Stone again. We can, before recovery, thankfully, use Fox's effect to put that Killing Stone back into the deck, making it so we have more of a chance to hit it if we're calling Stone here. And we're also playing things like Magic Stone Research Institute to be able to dig a little bit more, and also make just our stuff a little bit bigger. So we'll see if that comes down this turn as well. Move to recovery. We're going to float some will here. Floating will for Fox isn't really that big of a deal because of the fact that we're going to probably use Griffin and get new stones. And so we're still going to have will available during our opponent's turn, especially if you get multiple Killing Stones. So you're not significantly out of shape there. We're going to swing in for 6 and then swing in for 12. It's going to go ahead and block with the Chimera, block the Griffin with the Dracula, and then take the 600. Gonna go ahead and float some will and use Fox effect again. So once again, down 100, up 100. We get to go get another Griffin here, which gets us 2 more Killing Stones. So we're at a much better position at this point. Use the floating. To play a Melfi, the floating from the 2 6 Sages stones. To play a Melfi. And then using the will from Melfi to sacrifice the Melfi to part of True Power to get us that Griffin back from the grave. So this gets us another 2 stones, puts us up to seal 6. Looking at the stones, looking at what possible options there are, knowing what might be in Paul's deck, knowing what I have up available, we're going to go ahead and try to push for some lethal here, which is going to be Magic Stone Research Institute. Using the other floating gets us that. Now all of our chimeras are a little bit pumped. You see, you have 3 unique stones, so each chimera is now swinging for 16 or 18. And then we're going to follow it up by playing a Black Witch. So Witch of the Black Fallen Kingdom gets us to go get a Pumpkin Witch from the sideboard, which is everybody's swiftness and flying, and we can push through for lethal. So not only can Wolfgang suddenly pop out lethal, but so can Fox. Going into game 3 here, we're just going to go ahead and jump right into turn 1. Hit that 6 Sage Stone, choosing not to Judgment, because I think we learned last time we want to be able to set up a little bit better to not just screw ourselves out of being able to play cards during Paul's turn. Seeing that Nyarlathotep, or Shub coming down on turn 1, we're going to go ahead and Lorite the effect, so we doesn't get to start searching off there. Floating some will. Call Stone. Gets a Killing Stone here, which feels pretty good. Then we're going to go ahead and use that will to play Magic Stone Research Institute. So the reason for this is we're going to go ahead and sacrifice that 6 Sage Stone, hit another 6 Sage Stone, and recover the Fox. So now we can Judgment. So at turn 2, Judgment's hit Fox, despite not hitting Killing Stone on 2. And still, while he's tapped out, we say, you know what, it might be best to go ahead and try to get a Fox ready during his turn, but then we're also worried about not hitting Killing Stone again. So deciding whether or not to go ahead and commit something to board now versus be reactive and play against Paul. Choosing to make the pass here, down comes the second shub. We're going to respond to the shub's effect by using that Witch of the Fallen Kingdom. So he'll still produce the will, but he will not get the search out of it. So kind of limiting the options for Paul to be able to be consistent there. And this is what I'm saying now, Witch's Brew. It's a lot of one-cost reactionary resonators to be able to then fuel the chimeras later. So there, being able to stop the search, he does have the available will of it to be able to cast something else. He could incarnate into something like Nyarlathotep to be able to kind of pick apart my hand. Anything that kind of targets, unless it specifically is unchaseable, like his Nyarlathotep, the new Nyarlathotep from Magic Stone War, is gonna just get sacrificed to the resonator in response to make a chimera. So targeting stuff is a little bit awkward right now, so it's a matter of what he's gonna do here. Gonna check in what will we have available, what bodies we have available. Ultimately, I just have a Fox for Chimera. We are gonna see the sacrifice here. Down comes the Adam Brawley, the Unfathomable. He sacrificed a red and a black, so I will lose 400 life and he can burn something for 400 damage. Thankfully, because I have 2 stones, it can't successfully kill either of my guys, but it is going to force me to lose 400 life and put a better body on the board for him. Seeing if there's any kind of additional follow-up here from Paul this turn, because he still does have the floating black-red. We're probably going to go for a Chimera at the end of this turn regardless, just so we can kind of ramp up and be at 4 stones next turn. Use Fox's effect. So this is a little bit of a misplay on my part. Because we're going into my turn, it would have been smarter to respond to the Chimera's effect. We could still do it. He's going to use that black for Assault of the Demonic World because he incarnated something. We could have used the floating black to, in response, used Fox, put the Killing Stone back to maximize the chances of hitting another Killing Stone here. Ultimately, we're doing it preemptively, or reactively later to shuffle it in after we've gotten one. So thankfully, we have one. Now we just need to have resonators. Killing that Chimera was pretty good because now we have to build back up, and we don't really have much there. We are playing some little what we call one card chimeras, things like Prisia, things like the Black Witch that can help us get there. Things like Melfi turn into like 1 card chimeras because of the cycling and will production that they provide, but ultimately don't have any right there. And because we don't want to miss out on those 6 Sage Stones, we're gonna go ahead and just pass the turn after having that option available. So Umir's going to come down here. We say, you know what? No, I'm not going to let you awaken that and steal one of my chimeras. We're going to take the damage from the Adam Brawley and move away. We do have the 13. This is also why we didn't call stone, because we wanted access to the green-white from number 13. It's pretty easy for us to get to Seal 7 relatively quick, as you've seen before. So, moving into recovery. Oh, nope. Maybe something else before recovery. We are going to go ahead and just preemptively flash in a Witch of the Fallen Kingdom while he's tapped out and just make use of the will here to be able to set us up. And then once again, we're going to pass turn. Dracula coming down from Paul's side. Second Dracula coming down from Paul's side. So starting to put some pressure on. His Adam Brawley is not going to be bigger than my Witch because of that Institute, which is nice. We're going to play our own Dracula here. Say, you know what, my Dracula is bigger than your Dracula, so at least I can answer that one. And then we'll have to pass the turn. So I'm accepting the fact that I'm going to take damage from at least one Dracula. But based on what's in my hand, maybe I have a Melfi that I'm holding on to or something like that. But I can at least start trading Draculas a little bit. I'll take the 4 there, go down to 27. And then we're going to go ahead and Incarnate. This is another way to get those Draculas off board to be able to bring them back. We have another Adam Brawley. That's going to get number 13 to say, you know what, we're not going to let you cycle there. You're just going to be able to keep your Draculas. I got to keep Value Engine up here. Dracula's coming back. They're both 6/6s, and we go into my turn. Still looking for that green Resonator to be able to start going off with Chimeras, so a little bit more of a grind. We're going to float some Will here with these 6 Sage Stones so we don't get punished. Call Stone. Get a Black Silence, which feels really good. Swing on the ground for 10 because now we have 3 unique stones. So these are bigger than his Draculas. If we make some sacrifice to Dracula, we're totally fine with that. One thing to note is that once we get to a point where we feel comfortable with stones or we're using Chimeras effectively, we can actually use that Institute to be able to deal with the Draculas. Like in response to their graveyard trigger, we can just remove the grave. So that is something for us to note if the game goes that long. The problem there becomes then we give him an Umir, because Umir can get cast from the RFG, so it's a little bit of a trade-off to let him maybe steal one of our Chimeras from the graveyard. Adoraktia's Memoria coming down for Paul. Double checking what life totals are. Swinging in the air for 6. We're going to go ahead and block. Swinging in the air for 6. You say that's fine. Take the 21. Dracula comes back. Draw for turn. Paul's saying before I draw my cards, I'm putting the card back there. We're going to go ahead and get a Flames of the Outer World to try to kill the Black Witch. Ultimately, it is too big, so it does have the damage for the turn, but it's because it has the pumps, the 3rd stone. I am a 10/10, so she's a little bit bigger for this turn. It does mean, though, that she can't really swing, because that means trading with a Dracula, and that would feel real bad. But I can also try to force a block here to be able to push through some damage as well. By saying, hey, if you're going to block, it'll be a trade, and then I can just sacrifice something. But first, I need that green Resonator. So we are actually going to go ahead and swing for the 10. We say, you know what? I don't think you have something. I don't think you're going to risk the trade here. It's a trade at best, and you're already down a card, so I think I'm going to get in 1,000 damage. He blocks with the Dracula, so mine is also, that's still a 10/10, so it's going to kill his Drac. It'll come back as a 10/10, but we're still feeling pretty advantageous there. Finally, do you see that green 1-drop in the form of a Lorite? It does have an enter effect, but ultimately there's no response. So we're just going to go ahead and quickly get a new Griffin. By using that Lorite. Gets us 2 more stones, 2 more killing stones. Dracula's going to get to come back at the end of the turn, which feels super great. And now we're set up to be able to deal with his Dracula if we want to. That being said, I don't really necessarily feel like we need to, because our Dracula is bigger than his. We also have a Chimera that's bigger than his other one. We're going to flash in Haster here at the end of turn just to get another body on field. There is a world, because of what my life total is, that a Shub could be particularly bad right now. He is dealing with, however, a position of the fact that I do have access to Griffin, which means we gave access to something like the Amit, which can kill the guy, which is no good. So he swings with the Dracula. In response to the block of the Griffin, he's going to burn it with Flames of the Outer World. What we're doing is after the Flames of the Outer World resolves, but still before damage of the block. This is an important moment to notice. We're going to go ahead and say he has 1 card in hand. We're going to go ahead and say, well, still, we're going to accept probably this damage. We're going to do Fox effects after floating some will. We're going to sacrifice the Dracula. We're going to sacrifice the Dracula, and we're going to sacrifice the Griffin. Once again, we're not chasing the Flames of the Outer World. We're letting Flames resolve, but because it didn't kill the Griffin, we still get an opportunity after the fact to then play something. And what we're going to do is we want to get rid of that last card in his hand. We're feeling pretty advantageous, so we're going to play Manticore. He does respond by playing 1 to play Necronomicon Barrier, but it's essentially the same because I would just discard that 1 card from his hand anyway. Taking the damage here. Swings in the air thinks about swinging in the air for the Dracula, but he also can't get too greedy here because he knows I'll just block it. And then Haster's not enough to kill, so I'll block, kill the Dracula, and then he needs to leave blockers up here. He's going to call Stone. Now this would be the moment of that Institute being able to be really good. Like I could respond to the Dracula and remove it from the game with the Institute. A little bit of a misplay from me that would have just like absolutely locked in the game this turn. That being said though, before recovery, what we can do is we're going to go ahead and do Priscia's Big Show. This is to turn on one of our one card chimeras, right? I don't care what the cards are on top of my deck. I've already drawn for turn. We're just going to go ahead and move to recovery because I'm about to use Priscia to search something. So swing in with the Manticore, which will be hitting for a grand total of 15. He blocks. I say that's fine. Swing in with the Dracula, which will be swinging in for a grand total of 14 because it's an 8-8 with 6-6, so he takes 3, doesn't have a flyer to block it. And then what we can do here is we can swing in with the Witch to try to do lethal. He'll respond by trying to block, and then what we do is in response, like I said, 1 card chimeras. Priscia is going to go get us a Fox Spirit. It could get us Pumpkin Witch, but we don't really need that right now. We don't know he has 0 cards in hand. There's no way he can respond to any of this. So we're going to go with the true tried and true Fox card of Fox Spirit, which will then let us make sacrifice Fox Spirit because we're going to make it as Darkness Resonator and the Priscia and the Killing Stone to then get another Chimera. So finally using the 3rd Chimera of the suite, grabbing an Amit, killing the Haster, and then being able to swing through for lethal. So there you guys have it. That is the match. Hope you guys enjoyed seeing some Wanderer throwdowns and some cool old mechanics. We'll be putting up deck profiles later this week and kind of talking about updated changes. But until next time, this is DMO73 saying class dismissed.